and that we are on the right way to success.
Hi, Geovany Quenda. I'm very happy to be here. See you soon.
Xabi Alonso does not need another talented winger. He needs a player who can change Chelsea's entire shape. A winger when they attack, a wing-back when they defend, a runner when the game opens, and a disciplined outlet when the pressure rises. So, who can give him all of that? His name is Geovany Quenda, a 19-year-old Portuguese talent, built at Sporting, tested in Europe, and already trusted with responsibilities beyond his age. But why did Chelsea move before the rest of the market? Where will Alonso actually use him? And can one young player help turn Chelsea's collection of talent into a recognisable team? Because Quenda is not arriving to fill one position. He is arriving to give Alonso options Chelsea did not have before. But Chelsea's biggest problem is not a lack of talent. It is what happens when talent has no clear identity. Chelsea have collected speed, technique, youth, and enormous potential, but too many options can create a different problem. Players begin occupying the same spaces. Roles become interchangeable without becoming clear. Possession looks controlled, but the next action remains uncertain. Alonso's first task is therefore not simply to win more matches. He must make Chelsea understandable again. When the ball is lost, every player must know where the danger begins. When it is recovered, everyone must recognise which space should open first. The width cannot disappear because two attackers both want to move inside. The midfield cannot become exposed because both wide defenders attack together. Freedom must exist, but the structure behind it must survive. Alonso needs players who can change roles without changing the logic of the team. A player can start high, drop into the build-up, then recover into the defensive line. The position changes, but the purpose does not. That is where Quenda becomes important. Not as the saviour of Chelsea, and not as the teenager expected to repair everything, but as a piece whose movement can make the rebuild visible. Now meet the player Chelsea believe can provide it. Geovany Quenda was born in 2000. He is 19 years old, Portuguese, left-footed, and most dangerous from wide areas. Born in Guinea-Bissau and raised in Portugal, he spent time with Benfica before developing into a senior player at Sporting. He can play as a winger, a wing-back, or a wide creator, but those labels still do not explain the real player. Quenda's value is not that he can stand in several different positions. It is that he understands how to move between them while the game is still changing. He can receive on the right, attack inside onto his stronger foot, then recover deep enough to become part of the defensive line. He can begin on the left, hold the touchline, and attack outside without needing to turn back. He can release the ball, continue his run, and return for the second action. He does not simply occupy a space, he changes what that space means. But potential is cheap until senior football proves it. Quenda did not arrive at Chelsea with only academy highlights and one viral dribble. Sporting gave him responsibility early. He entered the senior team, faced experienced defenders, and was asked to understand both sides of the game. That matters because youth football can protect a gifted attacker. Senior football exposes him. Defenders use their bodies earlier, passing windows close faster. One poor recovery run can damage the entire team. Quenda had to learn that a wide player cannot simply wait for the ball and attack. Sometimes he must protect the fullback. Sometimes he must hold the width without receiving. Sometimes the correct decision is the run that creates the goal for somebody else. He then helped Sporting win the Portuguese League and Cup double, and was named Primeira Liga Young Player of the Season in 2025. By the time he completed his move to Chelsea, he had already featured regularly across 2 senior seasons, operating in attacking wide positions and at wing-back. Sporting did not simply reveal his talent, they gave that talent tactical responsibility. And the footage tells an even bigger story. Quenda was not only producing in Portugal, European football gave him a different test. Opponents were stronger, preparation was more detailed, and every mistake carried greater weight. Yet his threat survived. The raw numbers do not need to look enormous because their value comes from the context. Quenda was competing on major European nights before arriving in England. He faced opponents who studied his tendencies, closed his preferred side, and attempted to force him into uncomfortable decisions. He learned what happens when the first dribble is blocked, when the space outside disappears, and when the defender already knows which foot he wants to use. Those experiences matter to Alonso because Chelsea are not asking Quenda to discover pressure from zero. Sporting gave him repetition. European football gave him evidence. Alonso must now turn that experience into a repeatable Premier League role. The talent was visible early. The larger stage proved it did not immediately disappear when the level increased. But the scary part is not the dribble, it is everything that happens before it. Watch Quenda before the ball arrives. He scans the defender, reads the space inside, and shapes his body so the first touch can become an attack. That is why he can appear faster than the player chasing him. The acceleration begins mentally before it begins physically. If the fullback stays square, Quenda can attack outside. If the defender opens his body to protect the line, Quenda moves inside onto his stronger left foot. And if the second defender arrives, he can release the pass and continue running. This is where young dribblers often lose the action. They defeat one player, then hold the ball too long. Quenda is learning to recognize what the first duel creates: a cutback, an inside pass, a second run, or a teammate released into the space behind the defender. He does not always need to finish the attack himself, but sometimes his greatest contribution is forcing two defenders to react to one movement. One player follows him, another covers the space. Somewhere else, a Chelsea attacker becomes free. The dribble creates the first problem, but the next decision decides whether the damage becomes real. Now place that movement inside Alonso's clearest structure. The most obvious role is right wing back in a back three. In possession, Quenda can push high enough to become a winger. A right-sided centre-back can carry forward behind him. A central midfielder can remain inside, while one of the attacking midfielders occupies the half space. Suddenly, Chelsea have width, depth, and an extra player between the lines. The opponent must choose. Follow Quenda toward the touchline, and space opens inside. Stay narrow and he can receive with room to accelerate. When possession is lost, Quenda can recover into a five-man defence. One player helps Chelsea move from a 3-4-2-1 attacking structure into a 5-4-1 defensive shape. Alonso can alter the geometry of the team without changing personnel. That is the real value. Quenda would not be asked to defend like a traditional right-back for the entire match, but he would not be allowed to attack without responsibility either. The structure behind him protects his aggression, while his recovery speed helps rebuild that structure when the ball is lost. He does not only run along the right side, he can connect every phase of it. But here is the twist. Alonso may use him even higher. In matches where Chelsea dominate possession, Quenda could begin as an inverted right winger. From there, his left foot becomes the weapon. He can receive wide, attract the fullback, then attack the inside channel. That opens the outside lane for an overlapping defender. It can also pull an opposing midfielder away from the centre, creating room for Chelsea's number 10 or striker. Quenda does not need every move to end with a shot. Sometimes his greatest contribution will be forcing two defenders to react to one run. One opponent steps out, one central space opens, and the next pass becomes easier. This is what Alonso needs against organised defensive blocks. Not another attacker who demands the ball continuously, but one whose movement changes what the defence believes is safe. Quenda can begin outside the structure, enter it at the correct moment, then attack the space created by his own first action. He does not need to dominate possession. He needs to make the opposition move before they are ready. And this is where Quenda becomes important for Alonso himself. A new coach needs more than results. He needs players who make his ideas visible. When Quenda moves high, Chelsea become wider. When he drops, the build-up gains another passing option. When he recovers, the defensive line becomes 5. When he drives inside, a teammate is released outside. One player can reveal the logic of the entire system. That matters because Alonso's first Chelsea season will not only be judged by points, it will be judged by whether the team finally looks deliberate, organised, and recognisable. Does every possession have a purpose? Does every attacking movement leave enough protection behind it? Can Chelsea change shape without becoming confused? Quenda may not carry Alonso's project, but he could make that project easier to see. His movement can turn tactical instructions into visible patterns. His versatility can allow Alonso to adjust a match without immediately making a substitution. And when supporters look at Chelsea, they should begin to recognise a team rather than a collection of individuals. Alonso has spoken about giving the club purpose and placing the team above the individual. Quenda could become one of the players who makes that principle visible on the pitch. But versatility can become a gift or a trap. When a young player can perform several jobs, coaches may stop giving him one identity. Right wing back today, left winger next week, bench option after that, used everywhere, mastered nowhere. Quenda cannot become Chelsea's emergency solution whenever the structure breaks. Alonso must decide which role builds the best version of him, then use the other positions as weapons rather than confusion. The priority must be clarity. One primary role, one repeatable set of responsibilities, and one pathway toward rhythm. Only then does flexibility become an advantage. Competition will make that decision harder. Chelsea's squad is crowded with young attackers carrying speed, potential, and long-term value. Every training session becomes an audition. Every poor decision gives another player the opportunity Quenda wanted. Talent will not protect him. He must offer something Chelsea cannot easily replace. If another winger can dribble, Quenda must add defensive discipline. If another wingback can run, Quenda must add creation. If another attacker can hold the width, Quenda must understand exactly when to leave it. Alonso cannot ask him to become everything immediately. He must first give Quenda one role strong enough to support everything else. And even finding the correct position is only the beginning. The Premier League will test every part of Quenda's game. Space will disappear faster. The defender will arrive earlier. The second challenge may come before he has completed the first action. He will sometimes receive with his back to goal, a full-back touching him, and a midfielder waiting for the inside turn. Can he protect the ball? Can he play one touch when the dribble is unavailable? Can he maintain his defensive concentration after an attack breaks down? And can he remain influential when the opponent refuses to give him space to accelerate? Sporting provided the education. European football provided the evidence. England will decide how much of that education is ready. One successful dribble will create excitement. Several quiet matches will create doubt. Quenda must learn that the most dangerous decision is not always the most aggressive one. Sometimes control will matter more than speed. Sometimes the pass backwards will protect the next attack. And sometimes the run he refuses to make will be just as important as the one that creates a goal. And now comes the final question. Can Alonso turn Quenda's possibilities into one clear purpose? Chelsea have spent years buying the future. Alonso's task is to make that future function now. He needs players who are young but already tested, explosive but tactically educated, free enough to create danger and disciplined enough to protect the structure. Quenda fits that idea. A winger when Chelsea need width, a wing-back when they need balance, a transition threat when the game opens, and a patient outlet when the game becomes tight. He will not rebuild Chelsea alone. He may not start every match, and he may struggle before his role becomes clear. But that is not the real question. The real question is whether Alonso can turn Quenda's many possibilities into one purpose. Because if he can, Chelsea will gain more than a talented teenager. They will gain a player who helps the team change shape without losing itself. A player whose freedom strengthens the structure instead of weakening it. A player capable of making Alonso's football visible before the results fully arrive. Chelsea bought Quenda before the market became certain. Now Alonso must decide what certainty looks like. And if the answer is right, this will not be another wonder kid waiting for the future. It will be one of the first pieces of Chelsea's next identity.